had a conversation earlier today with a chief executive officer for one of the hospitals in this system, and he shared with me today that one of the very best things that could possibly have ever happened was the pathway journey for their hospital. He said that he saw absolutely phenomenal results as a benefit to this in terms of the elevation of nursing, the involvement of the teams, and how much easier it was because we were working with HealthLinx.
I'm Rebecca Allard. I'm Vice President of Solutions here at HealthLinx. What that means is I am that frontline individual that introduces HealthLinx solutions to the individual organizations in the system. This partnership really started in one of the divisions, which was a region at the time, with more of a powwow with some CNOs, and then one CNO champion decided to work with HealthLinx and move forward the process. And there was some great value that had been seen through that journey that happened through COVID and was very successful. And so many of their partners that wanted to move forward with HealthLinx.
I'm Dr. Holli Roberts, and I'm a Vice President of Nursing Excellence and Project Management. And I worked with 8 of the hospitals in the system in their first journey, in their initial journey.
My name is Mandy Haberman, and I'm a Vice President of Nursing Excellence and Project Management, and I have over 5 hospitals in the system.
Hi, I am Dr. Gina Shelley. I am a Vice President of Nursing Excellence Project Management. I have over 5 hospitals that I'm leading both with project management as well as leading intensive work with these clients.
My name is Stephanie Zabel. I'm the Senior Vice President of the Client Insights team here at HealthLinx, and I have worked with virtually every single one of the facilities in this system at one point or another in both their journeys.
So my name is Jeanne, and I am the Vice President for Accounts and Organizational Strategy for HealthLinx. And I've been working with the hospitals in the system that are on an active journey with HealthLinx in some way, shape, or form. I am the support person to the executive team and kind of support them with leadership to be able to connect them back to either their sister hospitals or other hospitals across the country that we're currently working with who are having the same types of problems, or maybe doing something similar in a very different way that maybe would be beneficial to them. So I believe my role is about connection for our executive teams.
Predominantly, most of them are community facilities, smaller community facilities. They're actually, a lot of them are very close in location to each other. But uniquely, they cross over multiple states. They cross over journeys. Some of them are on the Pathway to Excellence journey, whereas some of them on the Magnet journey. The other thing that's unique to them is even though they're part of a system, the system is in regions, and the regions are very unique in the way that they do their work and the way that they go about things. So it was very interesting to me to see that so many hospitals, part of a system, did not have congruency in their processes, their practices, and things like
resources.
Things like nursing orientation. And it wasn't just like the documentation, but the whole process. But things like new grad residency programs were very different. Nursing orientation, their shared decision making was very different. And not that it can't be unique or it shouldn't be unique to a hospital, but they were a lot of the hospitals, the smaller hospitals, were inventing the wheel or trying to invent the wheel because they weren't aware that they had this resource at the system level. And they weren't aware that a sister hospital had a very good process in place that was working really well, or that they could support them.
This was a hospital system that has done some rapid acquisition as well, and opening of new hospitals. So rapid growth, which has brought about some of that scattered approaches because they're utilizing some of their old approaches. They've also not only done rapid growth, they've also done rapid restructuring as well. So they are now a system that has divisions, that have regions, that have markets. Where they used to be a system that had regions. So it's like it's really developed because it's becoming one of the largest in the country. So they're learning how to develop, and you can tell the resources at the mothership compared to the ones that are further outlying from them. The further you get away, the harder it is to get those resources, or harder it is to understand what's happening, unless you have someone like this team here that says, do you know you already have that? And brings that together. And that is a huge value proposition, because I think that this is a unique system that has entrusted us to really look beyond a journey and really look at operational and nursing excellence really within the organization. So understanding where their goals are, understanding their strategic plan, and sometimes we do create a plan that launches between multiple journeys. And I think that that's a very unique piece. And we're also there to help them understand when they want to bridge from one journey to another, from a pathway to a magnet, when they need to do that. And really, they've allowed us to really support them for their global excellence. I really do believe so.
Originally, when we started working with them, I mean, one of the things, and of course this was pre-COVID, was getting them to get a system group, get the NPDs and the PPDs together as a group so they could start learning from each other. And initially they did it. They had someone running it. It was going well, but then during COVID, I know that fell apart. And I think since then, Mandy's done a good job of trying to get that back together, right, Mandy?
Yeah, they are meeting as a group, and I think that's one of my favorite things, is helping them to make the connections between one another, between stories, really leveraging their internal resources and processes that are already in place that maybe they can just borrow from one another.
And I think even outside of looking at nursing excellence, we were also able to help them, and I'm sure Mandy and Gina have continued this, but help them able to identify their internal resources that they had. One hospital in particular didn't know that they had any ethical support. And so we were able to get them in touch with who was the ethics committee that was supposed to be helping that hospital. And it was one of their sister hospitals, but they didn't know that at that hospital. It had never been publicized very well. The same thing with research. We've been helping to identify some of their research support internal, not just from us, but internally that they have that can support some of their projects. And wellness, that was the first one probably that came to mind for me, because it was one person in particular, and every time we would go to write the element of performance, I was interviewing the same person, or I was reading her document again that she wrote for multiple hospitals, because she was the point of contact. But they did not know that she was the point of contact for the hospitals for the wellness until they started working with us, and that we could put those together.
Yes, Holly, I think how they assess their mental and physical health, there were already assessments built into their processes, but people didn't know how to access the reports. And that's a service I'm sure they all pay for, and they didn't realize they had this pretty robust report that they could access to help them understand and target well-being initiatives, mental health initiatives, and physical health initiatives. So that was kind of fun to be able to connect everyone to that and identify where those resources are. Another piece I think that's really big, I think we should mention, is the data piece, and how, I think historically this system had really benchmarked themselves against hospitals within their regions and system, and really flipping that mindset to looking externally, even if they're on a pathway journey, still looking at that data against national benchmarks. And I think that's been really eye-opening for them, and a really great, no matter which journey they're on, incredibly helpful for them.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's really interesting about dealing with systems, and they're not alone. A lot of systems do that. They'll benchmark against themselves, typically, unless they happen to be on a magnet journey in particular, and they just know that's the expectation. And so it was an eye awakening for that to start to take place, to go, well, even if you're on a pathway, let's talk about why it makes sense to look at national. Because if you're on your system and there's a really big facility and there's a bunch of smaller ones, is that really fair that the big one is being measured against how the small? So let's go bigger. Let's talk about what it means to really benchmark about similar type hospitals at a national level, because I think that really helps to identify your true performance. I think with the system also, it has been very beneficial to do a system quarterly report. And I think that has really helped sort of see things start to gel together that help identify opportunities at all levels that can be addressed, as well as things that are going really, really well. Like, well, if it's going really well over here, how can I translate that over here? How can I make that happen in this other region or area or facility? Share knowledge, share experiences. So the system report, I think, has really been helpful in building that up and that knowledge and information.
Well, and I want to back up just a little bit there too. When we first started working with them, if you recall, Stephanie, they were not submitting data.
Right.
And if they did, it was very fragmented. They might submit it on one med-surg unit and no other units in that hospital, or they might submit falls. But I mean, we had to work with them really hard to like, let's talk about what you should be, what's available for you to submit. Let's talk about what makes sense for you as a facility to submit, and how do you get to that point where you can really look at your data and it is meaningful for you.
Now I think they've gotten to the point where they're opening new facilities and automatically setting up their NDNQI for success because they've learned from this. So right out of the gate, they already have units ready. They're already thinking about entering their data. And so they're not reinventing the wheel or having to go through all those pain points every single time.
And as we continue to talk about those system reports that we've created, just thinking about how this team comes together collaboratively at HealthLinx, then to deliver the reports on a quarterly basis. And we do it to the division level as well, to those divisional chief nursing officers and their teams. And it's been touted as extremely valuable because if you think about it, they're ranging anywhere from 8 hospitals up to 15 plus hospitals in their region. And they have organizations that are on different avenues within their journey, have different leadership engagements happening, different performance improvement aspects happening. And it's a way to have a roll-up conversation about what's going positive, what are our areas of opportunity, and ultimately what are not only opportunities, but what are real risks that are coming to their organization that we're seeing down at that front line.
You know, I think Mandy and I have a really good example with one of these hospitals related to the competing priorities of patient experience as a system level directive compared to the ability for a NPD to do their work, and how thin they're spread, and the conversations and the collaboration to try and elevate that issue to the chief nurse in that hospital to say, how do we lift some things or move some things off their plate? It's to me, Mandy, and please jump in and speak to this, but it's that collaboration back and forth and being able to elevate to the chief nurse and say, hey, what are some opportunities? How do we work on this next?
I think you said that well. Just recognizing where there's opportunity in work, workflow, and structure for the role or roles within nursing excellence. I think that's something that we can see from our lens and see how other people are operationalizing the position, and where there's been a lot of success, where the journeys seem a bit easier and where they seem a bit more challenging, and being able to share that feedback on those structures, I think, has been really valuable.
I think that you've also did a really good job, ladies, of taking that up as appropriate to the divisional level, to even say there might be some need for some support here, and how can we work with you to find some support within your organization. That goes back to some of that value of ensuring that we have those quarterly meetings to bring about where we see risks that could cause some issues to arise.
I think that's actually going all the way into, if you look at Falls and knowing one of our large campuses within this system was struggling with Falls, and Stephanie being able to, hold up the flag and say, hey, there's a problem. The timeline's not going to work. We aren't going to be able to get our quarters of data in appropriately based on their current results. And Stephanie being able to highlight that, elevate it, being able to share that conversation, the VP&E. Another one on our team being able to say, we have this issue and I don't have the time to help with this because this is actually dedicated boots on the ground help and support that needs to happen. And then me being able to bring in one of our expert leaders who is truly an expert at trying to fix some of these quality challenges and the work that looks like. So it's kind of that full spectrum piece, but then me being able to elevate it to the system level to talk to their system person who's responsible for the NSI reporting into the ND and QI for their enterprise, as well as to their chief nursing informatics officer on how to support the teams at the bedside a little differently. The other piece, going clear to the other end of the spectrum, so from the very beginning until now, where we are, I think, seen as more of a trusted partner and really experts in the different fields and the different areas. I think there's more of an opportunity to work with the system team at the executive level to have conversations about what we see downstream and challenges that they're having, such as with Falls. Those conversations are really helping, I think, to understand across the board where that risk might be and how they could be able to maybe pause or rethink before they roll things out. So I think it's making a difference in multiple different ways. Even outside of the document and the actual journey for Pathway or Magnet, I think it's also the piece of best practices that you're seeing and things that are happening across the system and ways that the unit practice councils are elevating work that they're doing. And I see that as an opportunity. It's oftentimes I'm connecting somebody from a different division with somebody in the other division. It's the nice benefit of working with the entire system in a certain area. And that allows me to be able to cross the lines and better understand so-and-so in this division is doing really great at this, or they have this new way of looking at specifically thinking about patient experience and responsiveness scores. And it's not just the number of call lights going off, but how they're tracking and how they're doing that work related to that. And likewise, how many of our hospitals have, the discharges are later and later in the day. And part of the reason the discharges are later and later in the day is because of the fact that that nurse doesn't have time to do another admission. They know if they discharge, they're going to get another admission fairly quickly. There's actually one of the practice councils have a project in place where they're saying, if you discharge by this time, you get a ticket for somebody to do your next admission. So there's some really innovative things that are happening in some of the systems, and specifically this system.
The other thing I started to see is because the MPD and PPD teams have started to get to know each other and some of the connections that we've made, they're celebrating each other. When one gets designated or hears back on their document, I'll get multiple emails from different MPDs and PPDs saying, did you hear about that? So I think building that up together has been really fun and hopefully ultimately helps all of their journeys.
I think I've even seen that in their writing style as well, with them being able to share their knowledge gained, not only from our partnerships, but being in different stages, either in their Pathway or Magnet journey, but seeing how it's so different from writing for anything else internally, but having that partnership to say, well, if you have that question, you can go, to your project manager, or you can go to this one, or let's just get on a call and talk about it together. But I'm seeing definitely improvements and really strong writing, even with newer organizations that are newer to their Pathway or Magnet journey, because of that camaraderie internally.
It also makes us a better team because we recognize we have to be on the same page. Are we sharing the same guidance? And what have we learned? And because we know they're talking, we have to talk and make sure that we're sharing that same message. So I know Gina and I and Holli have all talked on various EOPs to make sure that we're aligned. And if we have learned something through a request for information or a deficiency, then we get on that same page so that we ensure that it's a lesson learned and that we can prevent or improve documents moving forward. So it's made us better as well.
I think I think one of the other things that I saw was that because they are part of the system, and one of the things that they're really good at is they like to keep their staff within the system. So the staff are offered multiple opportunities to move into positions within their sister hospitals. And what I thought was really neat was a lot of their hospitals that were on the journey might go work for a sister hospital in a different role, and they could take that experience with them and start to work with that hospital. One of the MPDs actually took a director role in a different hospital and they were not on the journey. And she began talking to them about the journey and achieving nursing excellence and what did they need, and started working with them to get them working toward a journey of excellence as well. So I thought that was another thing that was really neat about working with a system.
Let's
Right.
take it one
And
step
that's-
further, that we are
Yeah.
actually they're opening up new facilities with a plan on how we're going to open up with the standards that are a nursing excellence organization, of whether they're saying pathway or magnet, whichever avenue, or even just laying the foundations and determining the journey later. They're engaging early on and saying, guys, I have this plan. How can I open up and ensure I'm starting the culture correctly from the beginning? And that's how they're starting now. I think one of the key things that happened was the recognition of that we have the expertise and the bandwidth to be able to take on multiple hospitals at a time through a journey, at the same time through a journey. And that is one of the reasons that they came to us in different divisions. And what else also helped support that was creation of a master service agreement, which ensured that they are getting same pricing across their system, discounts available across their system as well, and that they are getting the same basically resources available across the system as well that they can from HealthLinx. And I think that that's a great way to start a partnership.